The morning she arrived, the world was the color of dust and half-forgotten prayers. Sunbeams sifted through the drifting sand like spilled gold, catching on the edges of a lone figure walking the empty road. Her name was Ilara Boone, though she hadn't heard anyone say it kindly in a long while. She carried nothing but a small bundle of clothes and the fading belief that there was still one place left in the world that wouldn't spit her out. Some folks enter your life loud as a thunderclap. Others, they step in quiet as a feather landing on tired earth. Ilara was the latter, thin, soft-footed, almost ghost-like, as she approached the fence of Rowan Tate's lonely ranch. She didn't look like much, which was fine, because she felt like even less. She paused at the gate, fingers trembling. The shame she carried was heavy enough to bow her shoulders. Behind her lived the echo of whispered insults from towns she'd passed through, voices calling her strange, odd, unfit, untrustworthy. And beneath those insults lay the memory of a kitchen owner who tried to corner her in a pantry. Her refusal had cost her the only job she'd been proud of. His lies spread quicker than wildfire. She's trouble, they'd said. She's got something wrong with her. So she walked, each step scraping what little dignity she had left. When she finally forced herself to lift her chin, she saw him. Rowan Tate stepped out of the barn like the land had shaped him itself. Broad shoulders dusted in hay, sleeves rolled up, sun catching the edges of his weathered face. He wasn't a man of many words. Folks in Pine Willow called him the quiet widower, a man with grief buried so deep that even time was afraid to dig it up. But when his eyes fell on Ilara, something softened. Maybe it was the way her hands shook. Maybe it was the way she tried to hide it. "You walk far?" he asked, voice rough as gravel yet strangely gentle. Ilara swallowed, unable to speak at first. When she finally forced the words through her dry throat, they came out small. "I don't talk much, mister," she whispered, "but I can cook." He studied her a moment. Men like Rowan didn't let strangers inside their houses, much less their lives. But there was something about her, something honest and tired and quietly brave. "Then make me a meal," he said. He pushed the door open and let her step inside. The ranch kitchen was a room frozen in time. Dust blanketed the shelves. Pans hung untouched like silent witnesses. A thin layer of cold lived in the air, the kind that belongs to places where laughter once lived and left. Ilara moved through it slowly, her fingers grazing the counter. She treated the space like a chapel, each movement soft, reverent, careful. Rowan stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching her without really meaning to. She tied her hair back with a trembling hand, then set to work. The scent came first, warm biscuits, simmering beans, coffee brewing dark and strong. It filled the house, like a memory Rowan didn't know he'd been starving for. He stepped closer, inhaling deeply. For a moment he forgot the years, the silence, the winter that had taken his wife. When he tasted the food, something inside him cracked open. Something he didn't know was still capable of breaking. "I haven't tasted home in years," he said quietly. Ilara froze, unsure whether to smile or apologize. She chose neither, keeping her eyes low to hide the trembling in them. He set the fork down and exhaled. "You're hired," he said. Then, after a long pause that made her heart stutter, he added, softer, "And you're home, if you want it." For a moment she didn't breathe. She didn't trust her ears. Home? It sounded too big, too warm, too impossible. But she nodded. It was all she could manage. Word spread fast in Pine Willow. Rowan Tate had hired a strange woman from a road. When they walked into town together for supplies, Silas Crowder, the storekeeper with a tongue sharper than barbed wire, leaned forward and whispered to a customer, loud enough for Ilara to hear, "A woman like that. Nobody knows where she came from. Trouble follows the quiet ones." Ilara felt herself shrinking, the old shame rising like smoke choking her from the inside out. Rowan's jaw flexed, but he didn't say a word. He didn't need to. His silence stood beside her like a shield. She noticed it. She stored it away like a precious coin. Day by day, life settled into a rhythm at the ranch. Ilara repaired the broken shelf in the kitchen. She sewed a tear in Rowan's shirt and left it neatly folded outside his door. Every dawn, she placed a steaming cup of coffee on the porch railing where she knew he'd reach for it. He never asked for these things, but he noticed every single one. In return, he did small things too, quiet, simple acts of grace. He sharpened her kitchen knives until they glinted silver. He fixed the loose floorboard she tripped on twice. He brought her a small jar of honey from a neighbor's farm after noticing she didn't sweeten her tea because she didn't want to waste the sugar. They rarely spoke, but something warm began growing in the silence between them, something fragile and slow-burning. Maybelle Hart, Rowan's elderly neighbor, stopped by one afternoon with a basket of apples. She watched him move around the kitchen, Rowan chopping wood outside, Alara stirring stew inside, and her old eyes softened. "You two bring sound back to this place," she said gently, though neither responded aloud. At night, Rowan sometimes sat by the fire, staring into the flames. One evening, when the wind rattled the old shutters, he finally said it, the truth he carried alone for too long. "My wife passed in winter," he murmured, voice barely above the crackling wood. Cold took her fast. Alara didn't speak. She didn't offer pity or platitudes. She just sat quietly across from him, her presence soft as a warm blanket laid over a cold night. Rowan noticed that too, but peace never stays untouched. One afternoon, Silas Crowder rode up the dirt path, dust swirling around his boots. Rowan was repairing the fence. Alara was kneading dough in the kitchen. Silas leaned on the porch rail, smirking. "You know folks are talking," he said. "A strange woman living under your roof? Ain't proper. Ain't wise." Alara heard every word through the open window, heard the unspoken accusation, that she wasn't good enough, decent enough, trustworthy enough. When Silas rode off, she stood there motionless, hand still coated in flour, heart unraveling. She knew how this ended. She'd seen it before. She would not ruin Rowan's name the way she'd unintentionally ruined places before. She packed her things that night, folded her few clothes, wrapped her knives, wrote a small note with shaking hands. "Thank you for letting me feel safe for a little while." Before dawn broke, she slipped out the door, moving as quietly as the morning itself. The sky was still pale, the air chilled with the last breath of night. But Rowan Tate wasn't a man who slept deeply. He woke, felt the wrong kind of silence, and knew in the way hearts know when something precious is slipping away. He checked her room, found it empty. Then he saw the note, one sentence, but enough to knock the air from his chest. He ran, boots pounding the dirt, breath coming heavy. He found her walking the same road she'd arrived on, her bundle clutched tight. "Alara," he called out. She froze. The dust behind him rose like smoke as he approached her, stopping a few feet away. She didn't turn fully, afraid of seeing disappointment in his eyes. "Alara," he said again, softer this time. "Stay." She shook her head, voice cracking. "Folks are talking, Rowan, and they're right. I don't belong here. I don't belong anywhere." He took a single step closer, careful, like approaching a frightened animal. "People talk because they're lonely," he said. "Let them talk. But I'm not letting loneliness chase you off." Her shoulders trembled. Her breaths came in sharp low bursts. Tears filled her eyes but didn't fall. Not yet. Rowan didn't touch her. He just stood there, steady, offering space and warmth the way some men offer shelter from rain. And that was what finally broke her. A single tear slipped down. Then another. She turned to face him fully. "You mean that?" she whispered. "I do." Slowly, cautiously, she walked back beside him. Not because he demanded it, but because he asked gently, because he cared quietly, because he saw her the way no one else ever had. The kitchen seemed brighter when they returned, morning light pouring in like acceptance. Rowan watched her set her bundle down again, her movements still unsure, but no longer trembling. "This house was too quiet," he said softly. He brought sound back. Her breath hitched. A tiny smile, small, fragile, precious, grew at the corner of her lips. For the first time in her life, Alara Boone believed she might actually deserve a home. And maybe that's how grace truly works, not in grand gestures or loud declarations, but in quiet kitchens warming again after years of cold, in two lonely souls who learn to hold space for each other, in kind acts done without reward, in a man who listens and a woman who stays. So if you've ever felt too strange, too quiet, too broken for this world, remember this. The right people will not fear your silence. The right place will not spit you out. And sometimes home isn't found. It's built slow and soft, between two hearts brave enough to stay.